and welcome back to Bookish Theories. In today's video, we'd like to talk about ENHYPEN's Future Perfect Pass the Mic, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of the lyrics and the music video to see what they can tell us about the concept and its connections to Dark Moon the Blood Altar. Since this time the MV has a lot of elements in common with the story, this video will contain spoilers for both the Webtoon but especially for the Wattpad, so in case you don't want to get spoiled, I'll give you a heads up before starting to talk about that. In the meantime, however, let's begin with the general concept, because that alone can help us understand what ENHYPEN's manifesto is all about. Now, Future Perfect is a song that expresses ENHYPEN's desire to break free from the line that they've been walking since debut and draw a new line that will allow them to craft their own identity and take control of their own future. This is a concept that is expressed even in the title, which, in comparison to their previous title tracks, is devoid of the hyphen that kind of characterized the musical identity up until now. Much like they announced in the logo teaser, their intention is to end the hyphen in order to create a new ENHYPEN. Since the hyphen is a type of connection that heavily relied on the line that they were forced to walk, them getting rid of it is the first indication that they want to break free from the boundaries that they were given. As we saw in Walk the Line, the declaration of their manifesto relies on two main points: that they who were the hunted would now become the hunter, and that they who walked the line would now draw a new line showcasing their own color and identity. If in intro Walk the Line the world carved them on this line, now they are the ones drawing it, so from being created, ENHYPEN are now the creators of their own path. As they announced in Outro Day 2, this is the real beginning of the story, and the final goal is to create their future perfect where they can connect with you in their own special way. This is an idea that was already foreshadowed in Dimension Answer, and in Future Perfect they doubled down on this declaration because the ultimate answer to their dilemma is to always be real. You see, in the past they were divided between these two worlds because the line that they were walking also acted as a border between these two sides. So far, ENHYPEN were always confronted with a lot of choices. Are they a boy or an idol? Are they blessed or cursed? Should they be tamed or dash away? But it was always the system itself that imposed that separation. Now that they are rejecting the line, however, the boys are causing these two dimensions to reconcile, so now we're entering a new day one where they're bringing out their real voice in order to draw a future where they can finally be themselves. As they say in the lyrics, their goal is to stand on their feet because everything else is meaningless. There's no point in doing what they're doing if they don't speak up and use their own voice, but most importantly, there's no point in connecting unless it's a connection that they establish on their own. In the song, ENHYPEN present themselves as rule breakers who hate the line and realize that they can run together following their own direction. Because of that, they now pass the mic and ask you if you will stay, because this is a revolution that they cannot accomplish on their own. Even if they encourage you to put your weight on them, their future perfect is only perfect if they are with you, so they're passing the mic to allow you to speak out just as well. Now in the video, this concept is expressed with a powerful performance where ENHYPEN are starting a revolution confronting a faceless enemy that they have to fight by themselves. As I mentioned before, however, the video is mostly connected to the events that take place in Dark Moon, so from this moment on, heads up because I need to spoil in order to explain what is going on. Now, much like what the Dark Moon Twitter account has hinted at, the events that take place in Future Perfect mainly refer to the information that we discover in chapter 23 of the Wattpad. As we see in a second, however, there are also a lot of elements that span across multiple platforms, as well as story details that haven't been revealed just yet, so let's unpack everything and try to make sense of the entire thing. Now, chapter 23 is called Missing Part 2, and it refers to an episode where Sue and the 7 vampires of the Desalis Academy have an important meeting with the 4 werewolves of the Sunshine City School. As we already saw in Drunken Dazed and the Webtoon, these 4 wolves are called Kan, Najak, Angie, and Tile, and they are played by the 4 confirmed members of the N Audition Boys. Now, for context, this encounter takes place after wolves and vampires had to join forces in order to fight a large group of drifters that invaded Riverfield. In the story, the drifters are the low-grade vampires that feed on human blood, and they are the ones to blame for killing many humans in the town. When they manage to capture and interrogate a higher-ranking vampire called David, however, they discover that the situation is far worse than what it seemed, because the drifters are actually at the core of a werewolf trafficking ring. With the help of a werewolf traitor called Sava, the drifter kidnap werewolves, they torture them, them and eventually sell them off to higher-ranking vampires that feed on them because of their rare blood. Since in the Dark Moon universe werewolves have always been victims of the vampires, this is something that Khan and his team were always aware of, so much so that they sent 3 members of the pack to investigate the situation. Problem is that these 3 members have been missing ever since, so the main topic of the meeting is to join forces and find a way to get them back. This premise also falls in line with the main goal of The Howling, which is the show that will decide the remaining 3 members that will be part of the N audition group. Much like in Dark Moon, in reality the missing 3 are yet to be found, so the fact that Future Perfect deals with this part of the story right before the show premieres is definitely not a coincidence. In chapter 23, Khan reveals that the last known location of the missing wolves can be found in Estiva. This is a small town 2 countries away from Riverfield, located northeast of the fictional Mahaba Steppe. According to the intel, after the werewolves are kidnapped, they are sent to a warehouse in Estiva before getting shipped off to yet another location, so Khan wants to raid the place and wants the vampires to help. As portrayed in the Japanese Tamed and Dashed, the drifters are also to blame for the burning of the orphanage the boys grew up in, so Ellie and the gang end up accepting, and Future Perfect shows us the raid of Estiva. Bear in mind that the concept of Manifesto is all about them turning from hunted to hunters, so fittingly enough, the story reflects the same transformation, with them hunting the monsters that always hunted them. Ever since the beginning, for instance, we see the members surrounded by shipping containers, which is a reference to the storage facility where the werewolves are imprisoned before getting shipped off. In the video, these containers are guarded by many hooded figures, and these are none other than the drifters. Even if the facility is controlled by a powerful vampire called Elaine, the drifters are the ones that patrol the place, so when the vampires raid the location, they have to fight against them. The reason why in the video we see the vampires do everything by themselves is because the drifters have filled the warehouse with candles while Mel is able to neutralize werewolf powers, so in the Wattpad, Sue and the vampires have to do much of the fighting. This also explains why in the video we see Songon alone among the containers. As the full moon reminds us, his character Solon is half vampire and half werewolf, so during the raid he has to stay back with the werewolves in order to not be affected by the candles. In the opening scene, this raid begins with Jay and Nick interrogating a hooded figure, and this is a reference to David, which is a high-ranking vampire through which the characters discover about the trafficking. In the video we see that the vampire is later burnt by Jake, and this is a destiny that his character Gino reserves to many drifters he meets along the way. If you look closely throughout the video, fire starts spreading more and more to the point of reaching the containers. This is because in the story, Gino sets the warehouse on fire in order to create a diversion to distract the drifters and allow the others to free the wolves. As the vampire burns, however, we also see Hisung in the background, and this scene actually refers to a very important part of the interrogation. As we know, Ellie has telepathy, so in the story he uses his power to read David's mind. If you look closely, however, while this is taking place, Hisung is also holding a matchbox, which is the same object that we saw back in the teaser. This is an object that Khan found on David while he was searching him, and this matchbox will lead them to the discovery of Railgun, which is the very location where the werewolves are actually sent off to. Now, Railgun is actually a bar in Printanier, which is a small town located in yet another country in comparison to Estiva. On a side note, I actually want to point out that besides Riverfield, the cities mentioned in Dark Moon are actually named after the seasons in French. Estiva means summery, Printanier means spring-like, and they also mention autumnal, which means autumno. Even if they haven't mentioned a wintry city just yet, I'm sure that at some point they will, because as it turns out, Railgun is the home of a master that controls the drifters across 5 different countries. So far we know that Riverfield, Estiva, Printanier and autumnal are all in different countries, so logic says that the 5th country will have a city named after winter. My personal guess is that the town will be called Hivernal, because that's how you say wintry in French, but for now we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, however, the video moves from Estival and back to the Deselis Academy, where we see Ellie holding the jacket of a missing student as 4 hooded figures appear outside of the window. Now, even if this scene has no direct counterpart in the Wattpad, my guess is that it might actually refer to the meeting between the vampires and the werewolves. Much like the entities that we see in the video, the story has 4 werewolves looking for the rest of the pack, and in the background we can see the outline of a full moon in the sky. On top of that, when he sees them, Jay runs towards them and jumps out the window, which is actually a pretty fitting reaction considering how feisty his character actually is. In the story, Ian initially hates werewolves, and every time that he sees them, he usually picks a fight. In contrast, Jungwon's character Jaka is much more calm and diplomatic, and this would explain why in the video we see him lifting a watch to seemingly slow down time in order to stop him. Now this is a very interesting scene because the video actually unlocked a new power that we never saw before. So far, neither the Webtoon, the Wattpad, nor the cartoon ever mentioned anything about Jaka being able to control time because his power is actually speed. He is described as smart and strategic, but this is the very first time that we see him with a pocket watch. This could imply that moving forward, the members will gain more and more powers, and this could make a lot of sense because something similar is already happening to Sonu. Even if Shion's main power is to defy gravity and stick to the walls, for instance, according to the cartoon, he also has the power of mesmerization. This is a form of mind control that allows him to charm people into submission, and in the Wattpad we saw him using this power in the attempt to control Elaine's mind. This is something that will be useful going forward because the next step of the adventure is actually to go to Printanier and fight the Master of Railgun. In Future Perfect, the video ends with ENHYPEN approaching a plane with the same logo as their jacket. This is a logo that reads Vesselsoft, and according to the video it seems to be the name of a company of some sorts. So far this name hasn't been mentioned anywhere else, but my personal guess is that if this is indeed a company, then it might actually be the same company that we saw back in Blessed and Cursed. This is a place that might also be connected to the mysterious sign that we saw in the back during the container scene, but to know what both of these mean, we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please think about liking and subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.